Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, and in this video, I want to share my thoughts on how Big Book Summer has been treating me thus far. We're about 1 month into it. I believe it started on May 25th, and it runs to September 2nd or September 9th, I believe. I'll leave a link to Sue Jackson's channel down below. She's the creator of this cool event, and lots of people are participating this year, so that's awesome. But basically, the gist of it is just, read at least one book over 400 pages that you've been meaning to over the course of the summer. Now, I feel like I'm doing okay-ish. I've only actually, I think, finished 3 books so far that are over 400 pages. But I do have one that kind of threw like a wrench in my reading and everything, a monkey wrench there. And I guess, yeah, why don't we just start with that one, because it's actually technically not a big book. With the actual text, I think it's like 289 pages if I remember. Oh boys, 292 pages, and then even if you count all the end matter, it's like 350. But it's Medieval Maritime Warfare by Charles D. Stanton, and I'm gonna do a whole book review at some point here. But really, what it is if you just look at the margins and the spacing and the font size and everything, it was just awful. I was reading through it, and it's already kind of a slug because it is literally what it says on the tin. This is everything you're ever going to want to know about, just the political military stuff of medieval maritime warfare. Like I said, I just kind of wanted to fill a gap in my knowledge with medieval naval stuff, because I don't think I really knew hardly anything about it before reading this book. But that is literally all the book is about, just fact after year after year after location, battle, everything. It's just non-stop, fast-paced, just like that. But like I said, the font is tiny, the gutters are tiny, the margins are tiny, the spacing is narrow. And I was halfway through this book, and I'm like, what is going on? Why is this? I feel like I was on this. I don't really plan out my reading per se, but I can usually tell when it's a book like this, 300 pages or whatever. I can kind of tell how many days it's really gonna take me, depending on how much reading time I have available, kind of week to week and stuff. And I just realized this was taking way too long, and I realized it had to have been there's just more words per page, plus I had to read a little bit slower. I checked out the audiobook on it. So normally, I think the average for a lot of audiobooks is around 30 to 25 pages, or 25 to 30 pages per hour of narration and stuff, depending on the type of book and all the narrator, everything like that. But even if you went with kind of even the slower 25 pages per hour pace, at 300 pages of actual readable material there, it should be roughly a 12-hour audiobook. But is in fact, I think it's 19, and I can't remember what exactly, it was just under 20 hours for an audiobook. So really, this 300-page book was really a 500-page book of actual word count. So this is what screwed me up, and I feel I lost a week there. But like I said, be on the lookout for some sort of review for it. It wasn't necessarily bad. I don't know, psychologically it just beat me up for some reason. And now that we got that one out of the way, might as well go on to the one that I'm currently reading at the moment. We have Dinosaur in a Haystack by Stephen Jay Gould. I think this is his, I think if I remember correctly, it's his 7th collection of essays. You don't really have to read them in order, but Stephen Jay Gould was just a prolific essay writer for a bunch of different magazines and stuff throughout the 80s and 90s and 2000s, probably most notably with Natural History magazine. And yeah, they're just really good. I've read his Ever Since Darwin, which I believe was his first essay collection. And when I saw this one, I was like, I gotta pick it up and stuff. So I probably will be collecting all of them, just like I said, just really just great kind of poignant essays on evolutionary biology, but I don't know, just very readable, very approachable, and you'll kind of get the different core concepts. I've only read the first couple on this one, and the first opening one is it's actually about solar eclipses and stuff, which is actually pretty neat considering we had one, the big event this year, and kind of I guess curiosity in the sciences and things like that for people just an everyday New York City, which is where he was living and teaching at the time. So yeah, definitely really enjoying it. This is definitely gonna be a good one, and yeah, highly recommend it if you've never read anything by Stephen Jay Gould before. And then before I get on to the 3 that I did finish, That's also I do have one on the way, a big book of summer on the way. It is A.C. Grayling's History of Philosophy. It's one of the kind of like historical overviews of Western philosophy. Though I do think he does maybe touch on like some Eastern stuff as well. I can't remember off the top of my head if that was in someone else that told me that or not. But it is fairly recent and pretty well regarded from everyone that I've talked to that's read it. So I'm hopefully gonna enjoy that. Maybe at the end of like next month. Anyways, now let's move on to some of the actual ones that I have finished that are actual big books of summer. I feel like we're like 10 minutes into the video and I haven't even mentioned one that I've finished. So I've been doing a lot of gardening. You know, May and June is just a lot of gardening because I live in zone 4 and it sucks that we can't start till then. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see some videos like out in the garden or something along those lines or other. I did a couple I did like a nature essay reading maybe a week or so ago. But anyways, I want to do some videos like out in the garden, I think, and let me know if that's something you think sounds decent enough. So I definitely get to listen to a little bit more audiobooks during this month, and then also roughly around like September, October, when I have to, it's kind of like harvest time and like cleaning up and everything like that. But I do listen to a lot of like Warhammer stuff, and my friend is really starting to get into like Space Marines and like Dark Angels and everything. So I was like, I'll just like listen to like a Dark Angels audiobook. So literally had like just no bearing or anything. I just picked one of them, and it was The Purging of Catalyst, and actually it was fairly enjoyable. Space Marines aren't generally like my thing with like Warhammer and everything. But it wasn't just like pure bolter. There was actually like, some strategy, and like I like how they focus on kind of the scouts and the reconnaissance and stuff a lot throughout the book. So definitely enjoyed that one more than usual. Next up, we have Judith Herron's Ravenna here. Let's see, we got Capital of Empire, Crucible of Europe. Just an awesome, fantastic book. For those who don't know, Ravenna was capital of the Western Roman Empire for a little bit, especially after kind of Byzantium and the Eastern Roman Empire had split. And, it was kind of the seat of power even during, like, Theodoric the Goth's reign, things like that. I just find it really, really interesting. You get a lot of cool figures. Some of my favorite late Roman figures like Stilicho and Aetius have really like kind of prominent roles as kind of like warlords of the West, I guess you could call them. They get really big prominent roles and everything. But yeah, just lots of cool stuff. One of the social, I do have I'll link my full video review, and one of the things I did forget in that review, there's the geographer of Ravenna who gets like a whole chapter, who does this giant, like, he's like just an anonymous author who does this giant cartography of kind of like the known Western world at the time and everything. But it was just really, really cool, like learning about that. I hadn't heard of him pretty much anywhere else. That's definitely something you should like look up. Like I said, it's pretty rare when something like that major of a figure and like work and everything like kind of pops up, and I'm like literally never heard of it, despite the other like 100 books I've read kind of like on early Middle Ages or late antiquity or anything like that. But if you like the fall of Rome, you like the early Middle Ages, or you like late antiquity, this is definitely the book to get for you. And then lastly, I did listen to an audiobook because I could not get it through any library system in Maine. Like, they would interlibrary loan failed me on this one, and it's Natural Magic. Emily Dickinson, Charles Darwin, and oh geez, I should have memorized the subtitle. Something about modern science and the development of modern science, something like that. But anyways, this is kind of like a dual biography of Charles Darwin and Emily Dickinson, and kind of their different but very similar upbringings in a way. Obviously Charles Darwin in England and Emily Dickinson over in New England. But it was just kind of really cool learning about how Emily Dickinson was, pretty formally trained and educated in botany, biological sciences, and everything like that. Whereas Darwin had to make that a hobby because men, during the early 1800s and stuff, being a scientist was not, actually the word scientist had not even yet been coined, like, kind of like when he was a young adult, is kind of a little bit later on, I believe. And the book kind of deals with that a little bit. You were like law or medicine or the clergy, stuff like that. You did like science was more like botany, science, biology, things like that were more like hobbies and stuff. But it's definitely kind of in that era. It's definitely that era where things were starting to kind of like shift, and the pendulum was kind of swinging away from a lot of the clerical, like kind of ways of thought. You know, you have like Lyell's interpretations of geology, things like that. Obviously, like kind of Erasmus Darwin, which is Charles Darwin's grandfather, kind of started like kind of the ideas of like evolutionary change and everything. You know, Lamarck had his kind of like early stuff over in France and things like that. And like I said, you know, people are realizing maybe the Earth isn't just a couple thousand years old. There's a lot going on. There's more than like meets the eye with a lot of this stuff. But it was just really cool kind of learning about how their upbringings, they both, I don't know, I guess kind of challenge, maybe not necessarily challenge the dogma per se, like directly, but definitely did not adhere to kind of like the social norms, the clerical dogmas of the day for sure. They're both kind of a bit goofy for their time and everything, time and location. But yeah, just like their involvement in the natural world, how they both had, you know, their fields and their gardens and everything. They were always outside, like observing things. I don't know. It's just like I said, their upbringing kind of allowed them to like view the natural world in different but very similar ways. I don't know, just really, excuse me, really fascinating book. This is definitely like the sleeper. I wouldn't call it a sleeper hit. Like I had a good feeling it was gonna be good after reading like kind of like what the book was actually about and everything. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. So there you have it. This is kind of like like I said, my first kind of update on big books of summer. Let me know if, man, I don't know why I'm losing my voice all of a sudden. Let me know down in the comments below if you're participating in this reading event. Like I said, go definitely check out Sue Jackson's channel and let me know the best book that you can think of in recent memory, those over 400 pages that you really enjoyed. I'm always on the lookout for great recommendations, and whether you're reading a big book for summer or not, always remember, read victoriously.